still in New York. How is it without us there? Is it sad? Oh, as I ask, we lose her. That's great. Um, so yeah, we're back from our week in New York. If you listened to our episode last week, pretty awesome week. Well, it went by so fast. It's kind of a blur, but we met a lot of awesome people last week. My particular highlight was the Hedgie office. Um, One of the coolest office spaces I've ever been to. Not necessarily because of the actual office, like physical location, but the decorations from Lindsay and the team are just absolutely insane. Frisian, how are you? How was your week in New York?
It was good. It was good. I'm doing great. We've talked about this before, but the week after an event is always kind of a weird letdown. You're like, wait, what do I do now? You kind of have to rebuild.
Oh shit.
But yeah, great week in New York. It was very local this year, I felt like. We've held big events in New York in the past where it felt like a lot of the people were there from out of town. This year, I felt like it was a lot of just New York people or people who are like directly adjacent or there for another reason. Like, myself, I don't live in New York, but I go there pretty frequently just to work with the Tally team, It's kind of what it felt like. So it was good to hang out with the New York homies, like Lindsay from Hedgie, the whole Uniswap Foundation team was great to connect with. Arbitrum has a bunch of people in New York, and just like I think the off-chain labs, like a lot of the founders and executives live like in the Northeast, so they were all in town. Got to hang out with them. So yeah, it was good to just connect like in person with a lot of the New York homies. The Tally event was a vibe. Really cool happy hour. Very grateful to have Tommy on the team to like increase the vibes. There's a lot of like weird bear market energy at some of the events this week where it was just like very, very low effort. So it was like the Tally event was definitely a breath of fresh air in terms of just like the overall experience and the people who were there. So yeah, good times in New York. We'll be back.
Sishi, how was your time in New York? I know people don't know this is your first time back in 3.5 years, but how was it? And then how was this week without us? Is it sad?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't been in America in forever, so this is so good. It is strange like hearing American accents everywhere and not being like, oh my God, an American. But not to be, those guys, it's like people that go to Europe for a few weeks and they come back and they're like, oh, like you guys don't eat dinner at 11 p.m. here. So maybe a bit of culture shock, but not in the cringe way. But yeah, meeting people was so fun. My highlight was also the Hedgie office, which I'm also going to today because I texted Lindsay and like, dude, let's hang. He's like, come through the Hedgie. I'm like, maybe he'll have a shirt. I don't know. But yeah, that was sick. And then yeah, highlights were definitely Tyler Internet and Stefan IRL. Those are the first time I met those two after knowing them online for ages. So yeah, that was sick. Tally event also definitely the best event of the week. And not just saying that because like obviously Tally, but seriously, a lot of the events were like, is this an event? I went to many a paid pay for your own drinks event, which it's not going to cut it for Tally, is it?
I mean, don't get me wrong. We're trying to keep it low key in the bear market too. Like our last New York event had 500 people. This was more of like a low key happy hour with 50 to 100
60,
folks.
yeah.
But like, if we're gonna do something, it's not gonna be cringe. Like that's what's weird. It's like just don't do anything, right? If you're gonna like half organize the event.
Yeah, vibes. You can get great vibes for very a very low cost. Vibes don't have to be. Vibes are price agnostic, whether you want to believe that or not. But first makes a good point. It's something that just naturally to me, like it's gonna be a vibe whether we're doing a 500-person down YC event that's full of crazy talks and people, and it's at a fashion show venue, or we're doing a 60-person low-key event at a bar in the Lower East Side. So yeah, I appreciate the love, and I appreciate everyone that came out. Like CHG mentioned, seeing Steph in person, former Doubt Talk guest, He's one of the rare people who's almost better in person um, than he is online, which is pretty cool. Um, so, Steph, if you're listening to this, appreciate you. Yesterday was his birthday, actually, so happy birthday. And then meeting Tyler and Ellie. If you're an old school DAO Talk listener, all of our like first 30 or 40 DAO Talk interviews were edited by them. We had worked with them for a while. We got to meet them in person. They're in Brooklyn now, full in the crypto world. So it was a good time. It was a good time. It was very different than the last year we went when DAO Talk or DAO NYC was happening. But I feel like we've bottomed out and we've been at the bottom for a few months, but everyone's kind of like in it together and kind of just working to move our way back up. And I kind of like it. It's a weird feeling of like, I don't know. How do you guys feel? Like it's definitely like X and all the social platforms are kind of bottomed out in terms of like engagement, and not even just engagement, but like people like actually putting content out. But nothing is stopped on the back end in terms of like building new experiments. Like today in 45 minutes is Seed Club's event where they're highlighting like 8 or 10 of their new startups in their cohort. So things are still happening. It's just like a very different vibe than it was like 6 to 8 months ago.
Yeah, it's
Certainly.
definitely different. Um, I think there truly are no tourists left. Like everyone memed that, immediately. It's like, oh, the price has gone down a lot. All the tourists are gone. But like, it's actually true now. Like, truly, the people that are left are in it to win it. So, yeah, it's really nice to see people in person too, because like, the vibes are kind of weird. Um, online right now. And so like it's just nice to connect with people one to one and just like reaffirm, how everybody's doing and what we're all building.
Absolutely. Well, moving into the week's news, we talked for months about the Security Council election happening, and round one happened and is complete. I'm not sure what's the raw number of people who applied is, but 24 people or 24 candidates moved on to round two, meeting that they needed 4.7 million ARB delegated or voted towards them to make it to the next round. If you're watching, we are looking at the interface on Tally that shows the 24 who qualified. We'll link that in the show notes below if you want to check out who qualified. But a couple interesting things here. We have two different people who we know. Yana, who is strategy at Rari Foundation. She's here, friend of the pod, and then CHG herself qualified for round two. So round two, let's go, baby.
Yeah, boy.
A few notes before we kind of dive into it. Round two starts next week, where the final it's six, I believe, will be voted onto the Security Council. But yeah, CHG. Talk us through what the process was like, because me and Virgin, we're just gonna talk about it from. This is why it's good we have you on the pod now, like from the Tally side. But you actually qualified for round two, and are moving on to round two. There's some pretty heavy hitters on this qualification list.
Dude, yeah. It was gnarlier than I thought. So like I was sort of threatening all week to run for Security Council. And then the more I read about it, I was like, you know what, actually I think I fit these qualifications pretty decently and above and beyond, honestly. So what they're looking for is like, I think maybe implicitly is like experience on another Security Council, right? So it's like these traits that you can't really like have without practice. So it's like, are you able to respond in emergency situations? Have you signed on a multi-sig before? All these sort of like random niche crypto things that a lot of people that have been in crypto for ages probably haven't done or wouldn't want to do, to be fair. So yeah, you just write like a motivation statement and then sort of like where else you've worked, what's your background. So I like that the process was so transparent. Like everybody has the same application and it's really short. So it's not like some people get to write, hordes of their work and others, just have their little thing. So you just put your title, motivation, and past work experience. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, there's definitely some hard hitters in there. I'm wondering how it's gonna shake out. I think there's 3 that are on Arbitrum's like security council right now, like the first cohort that are rerunning. So it should be interesting to see if they make it in. Some of them are from Off-Chain Labs, which is obviously very close with Arbitrum. So yeah, it should be very interesting. So I started the KYC process, and so far so good. It's pretty easy. I think the one thing is like it's like disclose your LLCs, you know. So I'm like, oh shit, like let me search through my LLCs, and I'm like typing out the names. I have a few, and they're all like joke names, you know, obviously. Or I would like get my friends to name them and stuff. So I'm just typing this out. I'm like, wow, this is going to like official like back end checker people. And it's like, you know, like dog time capital. I was in Japan a few years ago, and I thought that a lot of the names that were like they were sort of English but not fully really were pretty funny. So I have a few named from those, and then I have Goated Enterprises. That's one of my main businesses, like I guess. So
It's a
yeah, it
nice
will be
name. I
interesting
like that
to
name.
see if all 24 make it. So I think as it was only 50 people, maybe a bit under that. I think it was about 50% got through to the next round. So it's probably about 50 people who initially ran. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many people make it through KYC, because it seemed pretty easy to me. I was like, there's nothing that could be glaringly like get you when you don't expect it. Um, so yeah, it should be a good second round. It's nice that there's like another week to sort of like do KYC, think about who you're going to vote for. But then also, I think it's really important that we and Arbitrum and everybody know that like the votes decay. So it's not like the first round where a lot of people came in on the very last day and some people got through the last minute and it was like, oh shit, everything's changed. It's way different, right? So like after the first 7 days, the votes go like their voting worth goes less and less and less to the point at the end where I think we discussed it's almost not worth voting. Even if you have a massive amount, it can decay to a tiny amount. So yeah, got to get those votes in for the first 7 days. It should be interesting to see it like take off and then have more like minor changes through the end, unlike the first round where it was like slow at the beginning and then ramped up at the end.
Yeah. If you have ARB tokens, you can vote in this. It's that simple. You don't have to vote for CSG. Not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying impartial. You can vote for whoever
But
you
you
want.
could.
You could do
You
your own
could.
research. Do your own research. We have a great interface that the team at Tally has built for you to make an informed decision. But that will start next Friday. So there'll be another doubt. We'll remind you in next week's Doubt Talk that the day it comes out is the day you'll be able to start voting, October 6th, which is next Friday. We also have a great Doubt Talk interview coming out from Frisian and Clifton, who were a big part of this project as well. Frisian, do you see this? Maybe take it a different way because you're about to talk, but like, do you see this proliferating into other DAOs in the ecosystem? Or like, what are the broad strokes from, seeing this successfully move through round 1 and hopefully round 2 coming up?
I think yes. I think the idea of having councils is definitely very common and increasingly common in DAOs. I think the part of this that I really would like for other DAOs to understand is the on-chain autonomous part. A lot of times people create these security councils and they're like, okay, cool, our DAO has a security council. But then there's like no plan or way to remove anyone on the council. I would say that's like very common. And that really, what it does is it just breaks the trust model of the DAO, right? If the token holders are supposed to be in control, and they're supposed to be able to audit everything that occurs and it's supposed to be transparent, but there's like no actual way for the token holders to like choose or change who is on the security council in the future. You sort of like are degrading the DAO experience, right? And what's really cool about the experience that we've created on Arbitrum, at Tally in partnership with Arbitrum, is that this election occurs autonomously every 6 months. Like half the people on the security council are pulled off, just using smart contract code, autonomously. and using money robots, right? And then 6 more people have the opportunity to join based on token holder vote. And it's like much more decentralized and also operationally more efficient, right? Like it just happens. Like the administrative burden of like trying to figure out how to get people on and off while keeping the DAO informed is super high, right? So instead, you could just work with Tally, and we'll just like make it happen for you, automatically every 6 months. So I would also say just a quick comment on this group of candidates who have qualified or nominees that have qualified. Like this is a really solid crew. You kind of have people from every angle, right? You have every organization that's represented here is like somehow a stakeholder of Arbitrum, but it's like every type of stakeholder, right? You have like apps on Arbitrum, people from the Arbitrum DAO, people from like the roll-up ecosystem that are servicing like, infrastructure providers servicing Arbitrum Orbit. You have Ethereum, like kind of core developer type people. So you just have like every possible angle, like great organizations, right? Like Gauntlet, Blockworks, Tally, you have every possible angle here. So I think great group to choose from for the election that starts on Friday of next week.
Absolutely. Keep an eye out for all that. We'll keep you posted on that on the DAO Talk channels and also probably in the newsletter and across the Tally channel. So again, everything will be linked below. If you are interested in round 1 results, go check that out. Get ready for round 2. Again, starts next week on Friday, October 6th. So look forward to that. All right. Other big news this week. I didn't really think it was big news until people on Twitter just started going crazy, but Uniswap Foundation, who we threw an event with, so we'll be as impartial as we can be. I don't think there's much like partisanship to this, but Uniswap Foundation is requesting the second tranche, I think that's how you pronounce it, of their initial funding that was approved by Uniswap last year. I believe it's around I think they increased. Is the problem arising from the increase in funding they're requesting from price volatility? It was initially approved for $74 million in funding. I believe they got an initial 17 million. Now they're, instead of requesting the remaining 57, they're requesting 63 or 64, and that's including a buffer for volatility across price action with the Uni token. But we're looking at the proposal right here from the Uniswap Foundation, which to me is my take is this was expected, this is coming. But there was some heated debates, not even debates, just attacks on Twitter. Version retweeted it. Two of my crypto Twitter faves squaring off. Kaido was right on this one, in my opinion, and it's Kaido quote tweeting and basically dismantling Spreek's shitting on Uniswap Foundation's request for their remaining funding piece by piece, and giving takes onto why his argument or their argument is not correct. So I guess Frisian or CHG, whoever wants to start here, my big question is where's the gripe? Where does the gripe coming from? If it's about the initial funding, that's kind of a late argument to have. What's the problem here?
I think that a lot of people have had success engagement farming on Uniswap governance proposals over the years, and so they're just excited to do so once again. The problem is that it's not working as well this time because this proposal is just very obviously good for the Uniswap DAO, in my opinion. If you read the proposal, they list everything the Uniswap Foundation has done to drive protocol adoption and growth, to make progress on exploring the fee switch, and it's just really good stuff, and no one was doing that stuff before. Uniswap is a software product, right? It's protocol. You need to add features and grow it and do BD, and there was, prior to the Uniswap Foundation, the DAO was very it was very stuck, right? There was this huge treasury of Uni, and it just wasn't being used for growth. And if you look out across the DAO ecosystem, CHG wrote about it this week in Tally's newsletter. All of these protocols are aggressively deploying funds for growth, which is what they should be doing. this isn't like a Warren Buffett like insurance business where the entire purpose is to somehow like extract as much profit as possible for shareholders. Like these are early stage, you know, market leaders in like an immature ecosystem that's growing very rapidly over time. You're just like sitting on this treasury of uni tokens and just like hoping magically that somehow the price goes up because you don't spend them. It's not going to work out. So like I actually Spreek, the person who wrote this thread, is someone I really respect and is like extremely knowledgeable about crypto, but like maybe not as knowledgeable about building businesses, right? Like there's a lot of people on crypto Twitter who know a lot about the tech and they know a lot about like trading and how to think about like how to price things. They know a lot about economics, but that's not the same thing as actually building a business. And there's like a shortage of people on crypto, so definitely on crypto Twitter, who have actually ever built anything before. And so, yeah, I just like this is a bad take from Spreek. Even though I like love Spreek, like I read basically all of his tweets and think he's really smart and really informative. We're all wrong often, and like yeah, I just like if for some reason you own Uni and you don't think that like the list of things that the Uniswap Foundation has accomplished with their first tranche of funding is worth it, then just like sell your Uni. Like I'm sorry, but like that's come on, like that's ridiculous. And rant.
Yeah, I mean, that's the right to exit, right? CSG, go ahead.
Oh, that's certainly a fiery take, which yeah, I agree with. I own Uni, and yeah, my thought was the exact same. Like, even if I'm not like thinking like, how do I grow this? I'm just like, well, my Uni isn't making any money. It's the price is not going up if it's just sitting there. And then you see, like, if you're in crypto and you own Uni, you probably own some Arbitrum or Optimism, or you at least know what those places are doing, right? So you're like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, we're not like they're doing taking active steps to help me as, whatever investor get more returns. Whereas like, yeah, the foundation also has done like good, cool stuff. And I don't think that this is a ridiculous ask. By any means, we've even seen this like since I'm like tracking all the proposals, on Tally, the newsletter, we've seen like these re-asks of like, given market volatility, we need more money if you want us to do these things, which is what happens in a regular business. I think often like in crypto, we just like we're like, it's not a regular business, so we can do this thing and this thing differently. But then at the end of the day, it's like, well, investor need profit to stay, which is like, then this is the answer. So yeah, I also think that the fudding is not valid, but it seems like the general Twitter consensus is the same, right? Like, Virgin, have you seen any other takes besides Shriek that are like long-winded, like this is bad? I mean, surely everyone just wants their Uni to be worth more money, right?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. Uni token holders are not dependent on any specific entity, including the Uniswap Foundation, to deliver a return on their investment. Um, but yes, like, uh, I mean, ultimately, the Uniswap Foundation original proposal, I think, passed like very well. And like, this is what we talk about here. Like, there's going to be an on-chain proposal on Tally soon, I think next week. And like, what Twitter thinks doesn't fucking matter. Like, if you don't own Uni or you don't have Uni delegated to you, then you're not in the arena. So just like, fuck off. We're gonna find out whether people support this or not based on the Tally proposal, and that's it, right? And I fully expect like that proposal to pass like easily, but we'll see.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's like the both of you hit on it. This is just how real life businesses operate. So it's like, okay, what are we doing? Well, like my favorite tweet from the thread from Kaido is, the best theater of decentralization is the crypto market, acting to care about decentralization, and then quotes, how many have contributed anything on decentralization? 0. Yeah, a lot of people, not to be fucking, I hate it that the arena thing has been co-opted as a fucking meme, but if you're not in the arena, I know for just gonna unmute and laugh at me, but like there's truth to it. Like God, Chamath ruined it, but the people in the arena doing it I mean, that's what matters. So the people outside can say whatever they want, but at the end of the day, the vote is
I,
happening
I
on tally.
I went to visit the Den folks like
Yeah.
office in New York, and they like have a space right next to the Polygon team that they're friends with, and on the door of the Polygon office is just the arena now. So it's like, yeah, you
I
have to
love
go
it.
into the arena to go into their office. I was like, yeah, I'm in the
I
arena
love
right
it.
now.
I love it. It was also like you got to deploy money to make money, right? And I mean, I messaged Version last night at like midnight because I just had like this, oh my God moment of like the Uniswap and Arbitrum treasuries are fucking massive. And like even relative to like more traditional businesses, they're not, but like in crypto, they're massive. So it's like, I know this is a bad argument, but like honestly, it's that simple where it's like, it's $60 million. That's like doing actual good for the protocol. It's not even 1% of like the active treasury, right? And like the fee switch hasn't even been turned on. Like the treasury is actively growing. Like I don't know. It's just like I get it. I think it all comes back to engagement farming, like you said at the beginning. But the good thing at the end of the day is the proposal is going live on Tally, and if you're not involved or have a stake in it, like it doesn't really matter. It's gonna pass or it's gonna fail. And it's
These
probably gonna pass.
people
So
like Saka and Spreak are tweeting about this because like especially Saka, like he's just a trader, you know. So like there's a bunch of uni that's gonna get sold, and like that's what's pulling him in, which is just a very different like it's interesting and like important, but it's just like a very different question to like what is actually the right thing for the DAO for like token holders and the protocol. This is important to
yeah,
understand like where people are coming from and sort of like what
yeah,
like what their lens is on things.
yeah. But then you get the little bit of context, and you're just like, oh, you're dumb for tweet. Not even dumb, but just like because they're probably smart, but like just like the
Yeah,
dissonance is incredible.
it's what I think is really important is like the question is not should the DAO ever give money to a quote unquote centralized entity ever. Like, I mean, the answer to that is yes, they should sometimes do that, and like every successful DAO does that a lot, because like that's how you get things done, right? Is you find like smaller groups of people who are motivated and focused, and have expertise they can bring to the DAO, and then you fund them. Like that's how it works, right? Um, the question is like, is this funding for this group of people the right one? Which is like, by the way, just like not what any of the critiques are focused on. Like if you want to come to me and
Exactly.
say like, okay, here's what the budget was for like the first tranche of Uniswap Foundation funding, like here's what they've accomplished. I just think there's a gap there. Like let's talk more about like how much funding is appropriate for a second tranche. Like that makes sense to me as a discussion, right? Like that's how you can tell it's low effort, right? Like that's just not what the discussion is about.
Yeah, and I know like someone might even say like, well, when the initial proposal a year ago, whenever it happened, like I don't know, it wasn't exactly a year, but like when that happened, there was still a lot of uproar around it. Okay, it passed, but since then, those critics have not become involved in Uniswap governance. You had a year to like become active and have your voice heard. So now, when you're coming back and saying it, you Frisian, like you just said, you're able to be like, well, you haven't. That's not why you care. So don't give me that fake like BS holier than thou argument when like you've had a year. Because I know probably these same people were saying the same thing back in the beginning. I kind of remember that. Um, like it's just yeah, it's just annoying. And we're giving them free rent by talking about it, but um,
No, we're giving the Uniswap Foundation free rent.
that's
Like,
true. That's true.
um, here's the thing. Like, one of the things that's starting to become clear, in some of like Tally's biggest users and clients, Uniswap and Arbitrum is like the DAO is very important. Like the other stakeholders in the protocol, like the labs teams and the foundations and all the people that like the community that's like building on top of the protocol, they need the DAO. They need the DAO's treasury to like invest in what they're doing. They need the DAO to upgrade the protocol. In Uniswap, they need the DAO to turn on the fee switch. They just need the DAO. It's at the sort of center of power. Um, And so that is also exciting, right? Like for me as a person who's like an on-chain maxi and like a DAO maxi in DAO specifically in the context of like, you know, the stakeholders and users and token holders like being in control of resources, like it's all good, right? Like you love to see it.
Absolutely. All right. Let's move on to one of my favorite things that happened this week. Tangentially related to DAOs, not really, but I'm sure everyone's seen it. But Coinbase was up in Capitol Hill in DC yesterday doing some lobbying, speaking to the big players in the space. But they had some, probably one of my, if not my favorite marketing, crypto marketing campaigns that I've ever seen. They gave out, they had a truck that was like giving out the coffee, but they custom branded these cold brew cans, and it says, and they branded it as "Wake Up," and it says 52 million Americans on crypto, and on the nutrition facts, it breaks it down on like the different types of people that use crypto, and then some stats like Fortune 100 companies that have crypto initiatives, 52%. Jobs crypto is set to create by 2030, 4 million. Savings if automatic clearinghouse payments ran on crypto, 2.67 billion. And then there's some other stats there as well, but my favorite one they did was with the truck, where they had like a what's the word, like a drone shot following the truck around, and it's a money truck, basically showing how fast money moves in the traditional system compared to how fast crypto moves on the blockchain. And it's just a very like visceral, physical representation of how outdated the current system is, and what are the value adds to upgrade it. So, I'm a sucker for good marketing like this, but thoughts on any of this, guys? Maybe not about the marketing, but just like Coinbase kind of leading the charge in DC.
Yeah, yeah, definitely sick marketing. The truck thing is almost like an art piece or something, like it's meant to make you feel, and it actually does. Yeah, it's crazy. Coinbase leading the charge is cool, and like a lot of us obviously believe in Brian Armstrong and have a lot of respect for it because they're putting their necks out on the line to some degree. I also think this is interesting. So I have some friends that are like XRPL people because I don't live in America usually, right? So they're like non-Americans that can still do things with Ripple. So their argument is always to me when I say like, why would you use that? They're in so much legal trouble. And their argument is always like, no, the only reason they're in legal trouble is because they stuck their necks out to the US government and said, is what we're doing legal? And the US government said no. And that's why they're in all this deep shit, right? So, I mean, I guess now they're getting out of it, but it's been years, right? So, like, I mean, I've moved on from them. So they're always like, you love Coinbase, and you think they're great for trying to get legal approval on these things, but you hate Ripple, and it's just because Ripple failed. And I guess maybe now some of that is simmered out, but I think it will be interesting to see like the Coinbase has, right, they've received a few like letters and stuff, but there hasn't been anything that's that major to this like Ripple degree, obviously. So I wonder what, like, it's sort of like leading the war. You either get to be like the hero or you get to be like basically the martyr, right? So yeah, I wonder how the end game of all this will compare to Ripple regarding whether they get approval or they get sort of laid down upon.
I'm just really impressed with how well Coinbase is executing. Like as someone who's worked at a larger company, not even as large as Coinbase, the the way that they're crushing across like base, the regulatory stuff, they're kind of rolling out this whole like international Bermuda based like derivatives platform, like, and there's probably a bunch more stuff I'm not like forgetting, is crazy. Like they're killing it. Like the way they executed on the like physical campaign, like with the the money track and the cold brew is like that's sick. Like it's really hard to get that type of like consistent like ingenuity and innovation inside of a company like that. It's just like they clearly just like are down to the true believers and like their best people, you know, and just killing it, which is like awesome.
Yeah, that's the key to success, right? True believers kill it, regardless of market. So love it, love to see it. I'm sure we'll see more from there. Hopefully, some similar tactics from Tally. Hey. All right, I think this is episode 57 or 58. Either one. We're deep in the trenches of DAO Talk. We will see you next week for another episode of DAO Talk Weekly. Interviews start back up next week as well. Those will be on a more consistent basis. Also, if you're listening to this and you want some merch, just hit us up in DMs. Kyler hit us up last week, so we know he's staying till the end to listen. But if any of you are staying to the end to listen and want some Tally merch, hit us up. DAO Talk friends always get some, especially if we didn't see you at the event last week. As always, subscribe to the Tally newsletter. I will link that in the show notes below. I'll link everything we talked about in the show notes below as well if you want to check that out. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Peace.